the communities are already holding oil operators accountable for environmental degradation in their environment. And all the stories you've narrated is an indication that people have realized that they can take these oil companies to court and demand for compensation where necessary. But it doesn't stop at asking for compensation. There needs to be a behavioral change on the part of the community people and on the part of the oil operators. And that behavioral change is ultimately to achieve and also to safeguard the ecosystem. So it's not about allowing oil companies to pollute the environment and then you ask for compensation. It's about taking steps. It's about stakeholders taking steps to ensure that there is a culture where the environment is protected, a culture where the livelihood of the people is protected, a culture where people understand that we are moving towards net zero. And for us to achieve net zero, one of the things we must prevent is environmental degradation. If we are in a situation where we wait until the oil company pollutes the environment before we take them to court, then we are going to remain in that virtuous circle of going to court, coming out of court, asking for compensation, and then the company goes back to do the same. And I'll take you to the same example you gave about the Gulf of Mexico, where it was not really the communities. The companies themselves knew they needed to take action. They needed to restore that particular ecosystem back to its pristine stage. Now, that culture of taking responsibility, that culture of knowing that oil spills degrade the environment, okay? The company did not wait for the community to take them to court. They knew that it was an issue of taking action immediately. And the government woke up to its responsibility as well in terms of responding, setting aside funds, okay, to ensure that the ecosystem was restored. That kind of society is different from the Nigerian society, where an operator will pollute the environment and will wait for communities to go to court and drag through the lengthy court process before they are awarded compensation. And then after the compensation, after the court has made pronouncements, they will still go to an appellate court and still follow it till the end. One thing we lose sight of is the more these cases linger in court, the more the environment is being polluted because oil moves in the environment per second. So the fate and transport of hydrocarbons happens like at the speed of light. And the more they are moving and percolating through different environmental media, the more they are polluting the environment. Most times, these cases end at compensation. They do not continue up to environmental restoration. So if Share was to pay the compensation that the court has awarded, that would have been the end of the matter. Nobody will talk about environmental restoration. So we need to change the culture. We need to change that culture, knowing that the ultimate thing we have to protect is the environment. It's not about paying compensation. It's about people taking responsibility and knowing that the first right of man, according to Kensaro Wiwa, is the environment. If we do not have a safe environment, we don't have where to live. So companies must take responsibility to ensure that whenever there are pollutions in our environment, they clean it up. And this must start with our government. Our government needs to set the policies and the legislation to ensure that whenever there is a spill, companies take action because there is going to be a heavy stick on them until we get to a point where government separates itself from the oil company and ensure that whenever there is environmental abuse, somebody pays for it, somebody takes responsibility for it. In other climes, we have what is called the polluter pays principle. It's a general principle in environmental management where a polluter ensures that the environment is being remediated whenever there is a pollution. You don't need to be taken to court. If you want to continue with your business, if you want to continue with your oil exploration, you must ensure it's a cardinal statement of one of the values of every company in civilized climes. Duty of care, the principle of duty of care and the principle of polluter pays are cardinal values of companies. And before any other company will want to do a business with you, they will see that you have carried yourself in such a way that you are mindful of the environment. In short, in civilized climes, if people understand that you do not respect the environment, they will not patronize your product. Nobody will patronize your product. So it becomes incumbent on you, because it is a societal value. It becomes incumbent on you to meet that stakeholder expectation of environmental protection for your business to be patronized. We do not have that culture in Nigeria. In Nigeria, apart from the fact that the laws that we have are so weak and so relaxed, okay, we do not have a culture where the polluter pays. We do not have a culture of due diligence. We do not have a culture where the companies knows that they have a responsibility to the people to protect the environment. And it's unfortunate because most of the companies we have in Nigeria are international oil companies, where the things they do in Nigeria are not obtainable elsewhere outside of the borders of Nigeria. The environmental management laws in the oil sector in Nigeria are so weak and relaxed and not effective at achieving environmental management. Okay. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, the oil assets are not being serviced. For example, you find a pipeline of over 50 years in Nigeria. They are not being serviced. And whenever there is pipeline rupture, we have a very traditional method of determining what causes spill. It is only in Nigeria that we have this traditional method of 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock in determining whether oil spill as a result of pipeline breakage was as a result of something we call 9 o'clock or 12 o'clock, to determine whether it was caused by a third-party interference or it was caused by pipeline rupture. The world has gone beyond that. The world has gotten to a point where technology is deployed in not just surveillance of the pipeline, but in ensuring that they track any fault on the pipelines. And so we are in an environment where you experience oil spill on daily basis. And how many of them are reported? They are not being reported because even most times the communities do not know that there is an oil spill until they start to see the impact. So we were thinking that the petroleum industry bill would have done a lot of good to the oil sector, but it only looked at the business aspect of it. The environmental aspect of it, the environmental management aspect of it is completely quiet and silent. If you look at the laws we have and compare it to what is obtainable elsewhere, you will know we've not started. For example, the quantity of oil that you will find in the environment that will trigger what we call remedial action in Nigeria, you cannot compare it to what will trigger remedial action in the UK or in the US. That's one. Two is, in Nigeria, you have two agencies that are struggling to manage the environment, and not one of them is effective. Not one is effective. You have NOSDRA and you have DPRO. In short, instead of two of them to take the work of environmental management seriously, most times, because of how the law is, they end up dragging whose role it is to go and monitor oil spill sites. And they do not have the manpower. When I say manpower, not like they don't have the technical persons. They have the technical personalities, right? They have sound scientists. But in terms of logistics, like I said before, can you imagine a situation where there was an oil spill caused by SPDC vessel or SPDC pipeline or SPDC assets, and then SPDC will bring their own helicopter to carry members of the Federal Ministry of Environment, NOSDRA, to the site where the oil spill happened. In short, by so doing, you have already compromised the quality of the report that is going to be produced, because I took you to the site. It's even where I showed to you that you will see. So there are, apart from the law, there are those lapses that have to do with the resources, to deploy resources to deal with issues of environmental management in the oil and gas sector. And that is why we have always pushed for the NOSDRA Amendment Bill, where we were trying to push all the responsibilities of DPRO in terms of environmental management to NOSDRA, for NOSDRA to focus on environmental remediation, and then DPRO should focus on improving oil output and maximizing revenue for government from the oil sector, so that we will have an agency that is responsible each time there is an oil spill.